The lunar monitoring station, Artemis, sat quietly on the moon's surface. Its dish arrays pointed toward the vast emptiness of space. Inside the main control room, Jack Foster rubbed his tired eyes and checked the time. 3 more hours until his shift ended. Working on the moon wasn't as exciting as he had imagined when he first signed up. Mostly, it was routine, checking systems, running diagnostics, and staring at screens filled with static and cosmic background radiation. "Want some coffee?" asked Mike, his shift partner, floating a sealed container toward him in the low gravity. Jack caught it with practiced ease. "Thanks. Nothing interesting out there tonight." Same as always. Just the void staring back at us. As if the universe had been waiting for this exact moment of boredom, a sharp beeping sound cut through the quiet hum of the station. Both men turned to the main console where a red light was flashing. "What is that?" Mike asked, pushing himself across the room. Jack pulled up the data stream. I don't know what it is. Some kind of signal." His fingers moved across the keyboard, isolating the frequency. "It's not one of ours." "Military test, maybe." Jack shook his head. "No, this is coming from way outside our system." He stared at the patterns forming on his screen. "This isn't random noise, Mike. There's a pattern here, a deliberate pattern." Within hours, the discovery had traveled up the chain of command. Earth's space agencies were buzzing with activity, and scientists worldwide began analyzing the mysterious signal. It wasn't the first time humanity had detected patterns from space, but this one was different. It changed, adapted, repeated in ways that suggested intelligence rather than natural phenomena. 3 days later, Captain James Reed stepped out of a shuttle onto the lunar surface, gazing up at the Earth hanging in the black sky. At 45, Reed had commanded numerous space missions, but never expected to be summoned for something like this. The message from Mission Control had been cryptic but urgent. "Possible first contact scenario. Your experience needed." Inside the station, a team of specialists had already gathered. Dr. Lisa Moore, a communications expert with decades of experience in pattern recognition, and Dr. Alan White, one of Earth's leading xenobiologists, were hunched over screens displaying the signal's waveform. "Captain Reed," Dr. Moore greeted him without looking up. "Good timing. We're making progress." Reed moved to stand behind her. "Tell me what we've got." "It's a distress call," she said simply. "We're certain of it now." "How can you be certain?" Reed asked. Dr. White turned in his chair. "The pattern repeats, but with variations that follow mathematical principles used in emergency communications. Universal constants, prime numbers, followed by what appears to be damage reports represented through binary sequences. Someone out there is in trouble," Dr. Moore added, "and they're smart enough to create a signal that any technologically advanced species could recognize as a call for help." Reed leaned closer to the screen. "And you're sure this isn't coming from Earth? Some kind of hoax?" "Absolutely certain," another voice chimed in. A tall man in military uniform stepped forward. "Colonel Tom Wilson, United States Space Force. We've triangulated the signal's origin. It's coming from just beyond Neptune's orbit, Captain. Nothing human is operating that far out." Reed felt a chill run down his spine. After all humanity's searching, all the listening to the stars, they weren't the ones who had made first contact. First contact had found them instead. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. More specialists arrived, and the lunar base became the center of the biggest secret in human history. World leaders were briefed, military forces quietly put on alert, and scientists worked around the clock to decipher more of the message. "There's more here than just a distress call," Dr. Moore announced during an emergency meeting. "They've included coordinates, a rendezvous point, and they're waiting for a response." The room fell silent. Colonel Wilson was the first to speak. "Responding could be a serious security risk. This could be a trap. Or it could be exactly what it seems, someone in need of help," Reed countered. "We need to be realistic," said Jane Cooper, a representative from the United Nations Space Council. We don't have the technology to reach them quickly if they're beyond Neptune. Dr. White cleared his throat. Actually, that's not entirely true. The signal is moving. They're coming toward us, though slowly. The rendezvous coordinates are much closer, in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. All the more reason to be cautious, Colonel Wilson insisted. They're entering our solar system. The debate raged for hours. Military officials advocated for caution or even silence. Scientists pushed for immediate response. Politicians worried about panic if the news leaked to the public. Through it all, Reed remained mostly quiet, listening and observing. Finally, Jane Cooper turned to him. "Captain Reed, you've been unusually silent. What's your assessment?" Reed stood up slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. "Throughout human history, we've gazed at the stars and wondered if we're alone. We've sent out our own messages, hoping someone would answer. Now someone has reached out to us, not with a greeting, but with a cry for help." He paused, looking around the room. "What does it say about humanity if our first response is fear?" "It says we're prudent," Colonel Wilson replied. "Or it says we've lost something essential about who we are," Reed countered. "If we turn our backs on this call, we're saying that our fear is more important than our compassion. That's not the humanity I want first contact to see." The room fell silent again, his words hanging in the air. "I agree with Captain Reed," Dr. Moore said finally. "And there's something else you should know. The mathematical structure of this message. It's elegant, advanced, but it also shows signs of damage or hurried composition. Whoever sent this is truly in distress." After more debate, a compromise was reached. Earth would respond, but cautiously. A simple message acknowledging receipt of the distress call, using the same mathematical principles found in the alien transmission. No detailed information about Earth or humans would be included. Reed watched as Dr. Moore composed the response, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she translated their message into the mathematical language they had begun to decipher. The room held its collective breath as she hit the transmit button. "Now we wait," she said. But the wait was surprisingly short. Within 20 minutes, a new signal arrived, stronger, clearer, and unmistakably a response to their message. On the screen, new coordinates appeared, more detailed than before. "They're accelerating toward the rendezvous point," Dr. White said, excitement clear in his voice. "And they've sent us technical specifications. I think they're telling us what we need to prepare for rescue operations." Reed looked at the others in the room, seeing the mixture of fear and wonder on their faces. Humanity had taken its first step into a larger universe, not with conquest or fear, but with a hand extended in help. "Well," he said quietly, "I guess we better start preparing a ship." 2 weeks after receiving the alien distress call, the international spacecraft, Horizon, stood ready on its launch pad. The massive ship gleamed under the floodlights, a testament to what humanity could accomplish when driven by a common purpose. Nations that had once been rivals had pooled their resources, technology, and best people to prepare for this historic mission. Captain James Reed stood at the viewing window of the pre-launch facility, watching as the final checks were performed. The ship had been rushed into service, adapting an existing deep space vessel with additional rescue equipment and communication systems designed based on the alien specifications. "Nervous?" Dr. Lisa Moore asked, joining him at the window. Reed gave a small smile. "Would you believe me if I said no?" "Not for a second." "Then yes, I'm nervous. We're about to meet beings from another world, Lisa. Everything changes after today." Dr. Alan White approached them, clutching a tablet. The latest signal came in. "They're still waiting at the coordinates, but," he hesitated, "their situation is getting worse. Their life support systems are failing." Reed nodded grimly. "Then we don't have time to waste. Let's go make history." The launch was perfect, the powerful engines pushing them beyond Earth's atmosphere with surprising smoothness. Once in orbit, the Horizon's advanced propulsion system kicked in, accelerating them toward the rendezvous point faster than any human vessel had traveled before. The crew consisted of 20 specialists from various fields: engineers, scientists, medical experts, and a small security team led by Major Dave Miller, who had been personally selected by Colonel Wilson. "Just to be clear, Captain," Miller said during their first shipboard meeting, "my orders are to protect this crew at all costs. If I determine these aliens pose any threat—" "Your concerns are noted, Major," Reed interrupted. "But this is a rescue mission, not a military operation. We're going to help, not to fight." Miller's expression remained neutral. "Let's hope the aliens share your perspective, sir." As days passed, the crew settled into a routine of preparation and training. Dr. Moore worked tirelessly with her team to improve their understanding of the alien communication patterns. Dr. White prepared for possible biological differences and contamination protocols. Engineers ran simulations on potential repair scenarios for the damaged alien craft. On the 5th day, disaster nearly struck when one of the Horizon's power systems failed, causing a cascade of shutdowns throughout the ship. For 6 tense hours, the crew worked to restore power while drifting in the cold emptiness between Mars and Earth. "How bad is it?" Reed asked Chief Engineer Robert Brown, who was deep inside an access tunnel, surrounded by tools and exposed wiring. "Bad, but fixable," Brown replied, wiping sweat from his forehead. "The system wasn't fully tested before launch. We were in too much of a rush." "Can you get it working again?" Brown gave him a determined look. "Give me 3 more hours. We didn't come this far to fail now." True to his word, 3 hours later the systems came back online. The near disaster had an unexpected benefit. It united the crew more strongly than before, giving them confidence in their ability to overcome challenges together. As they passed the orbit of Mars, tensions began to rise again. They were getting closer to the rendezvous point, and the reality of what awaited them was setting in. During a quiet moment in the ship's observation deck, Reed found Dr. White staring out at the stars. "Trouble sleeping, Doctor?" Reed asked. White shook his head. "I keep thinking about them out there, waiting for us. What do they look like? How do they think? Everything we know about biology, evolution, society, it's all based on Earth. They could challenge everything we understand about life itself." "Scared, terrified," White admitted, "and more excited than I've ever been." Reed understood the feeling. The entire crew seemed to be balancing on the edge between fear and wonder. On the 10th day of their journey, as they entered the asteroid belt, Dr. Moore burst onto the bridge, her face flushed with excitement. "We've established real-time communication," she announced. "They've adapted their signals to match our technology. They're sending images." The main screen flickered to life, and for the first time, humanity gazed upon an alien species. The image was grainy and dark, but clear enough to see a creature that was both startlingly familiar and utterly foreign. It stood upright on 2 legs, with 2 arm-like limbs, but there the similarities to humans ended. Its skin appeared smooth and pale blue, with a large, elongated head that housed 3 eyes positioned in a triangle. Where a mouth should be, there was an intricate set of moving mandibles. A hushed silence fell over the bridge. Then the alien moved, raising one of its limbs in what appeared to be a greeting. "Can we respond?" Reed asked, finding his voice. Dr. Moore nodded, her hands shaking slightly as she worked the controls. "They'll see you. Just say something." Reed stepped forward, aware that he was about to speak the first words from humanity to an alien intelligence. "Hello," he said simply. "We received your distress call. We are coming to help." There was a pause. Then the alien made a series of clicking sounds. Text appeared below the image. "Gratitude. Danger. Hurry." "Their translation system is primitive but functional," Dr. Moore explained. "They must have been studying our transmissions. How much longer until we reach them?" Reed asked the navigation officer. "At current speed, 18 hours, sir." Those 18 hours were the longest of Reed's life. More images and simple messages came through. allowing them to learn that the aliens called themselves the Valari and that their ship had been damaged in what they described only as an attack. When they finally approached the coordinates, the Horizon's sensors detected the alien vessel. It was larger than their own ship, with an unusual curved design that reminded Reed of a giant manta ray. But parts of it were clearly damaged, with visible ruptures in its hull and a dim, flickering light emanating from within. Life signs? Reed asked. Detecting approximately 30 beings aboard, reported the sensor operator, but their life signatures are weak. As they maneuvered closer, the damaged ship came fully into view. What they had initially thought was artistic design was actually battle damage. Long, scorching marks ran across the hull, and pieces of the ship were completely torn away. Whatever did this, Major Miller said quietly, has some serious firepower. Reed turned to the communication station. Hail them again. Tell them we're here and preparing to dock. On the screen, a new image appeared. The same Valari as before, but now they could see more of its surroundings. A darkened control room with other aliens visible in the background, some of them clearly injured. The text translation came through. Welcome, humans. Please hurry. They might return. Reed felt a chill run down his spine. Who might return? He asked. The answer came a moment later, a single word that would change everything. Drex. Docking with the damaged Valari ship proved more challenging than expected. The alien vessel's systems were barely functioning, and the usual automated docking procedures were impossible. Chief Engineer Brown had to manually guide the Horizon into position, using thrusters with delicate precision. Almost there, Brown muttered, sweat beading on his forehead as he made microscopic adjustments. Just a little more. With a soft thud and the hiss of magnetic seals engaging, the two ships connected. A cheer went up from the crew, quickly silenced by Captain Reed's raised hand. This is just the beginning, he reminded them. Dr. White, are the containment protocols ready? Dr. White nodded, checking his environmental suit one last time. Remember, everyone, we don't know what their atmosphere is composed of, or what biological contaminants might be present. Suits stay on until we verify it's safe. The boarding party consisted of Reed, Dr. White, Dr. Moore, Major Miller, and 2 engineers. They gathered at the airlock, each checking the other's suits before Reed cycled the door. Stay alert, Miller warned, his hand resting on his sidearm. And stay together. The airlock opened to reveal a dark corridor. The gravity was slightly stronger than Earth's, making their movements feel heavy. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting strange shadows on the curved walls. The air that hissed into their sealed corridor when the ships connected had been analyzed and found breathable, though with higher nitrogen content than Earth's atmosphere. Dr. Moore's translator device lit up as it detected transmissions. They're directing us to their command center, 3 levels up. As they moved through the ship, they saw the extent of the damage. Panels hung loose from ceilings, wires sparked dangerously, and in some sections, the hull had been breached and emergency force fields shimmered where solid walls should have been. What kind of weapons could do this? One of the engineers whispered. Nothing in our arsenal, Miller replied grimly. They reached a large circular room that clearly served as the ship's command center. Several Valari turned as the humans entered. In person, they were taller than the video had suggested, nearly 7 feet high, with slender bodies that moved with surprising grace despite the obvious injuries some of them bore. One stepped forward, its 3 eyes blinking independently of each other. The universal translator in Dr. Moore's hand lit up as the alien spoke, its mandibles clicking rapidly. Humans, you came. Gratitude beyond expression. The translation was stilted but clear enough. Reed stepped forward, removing his helmet after a confirming nod from Dr. White that the atmosphere readings were stable. I'm Captain James Reed of the Earth vessel Horizon. We're here to help. The alien made a gesture that might have been a bow. I am Tor, chief engineer of the Valari exploration vessel Lightseeker. We feared no one would answer our call. As Dr. White and the engineers began assessing the damage to the ship and the medical needs of the crew, Reed and Dr. Moore spoke with Tor, gradually piecing together what had happened. "We are explorers," Tor explained. "Our people have traveled the stars for many generations, seeking knowledge and peaceful contact with other species." Its mandibles clicked in what they would later learn was a sign of distress. "We did not know this region was claimed by the Drex." "The Drex?" Reed asked. "Who are they?" "A species that believes they are superior to all others. They claim vast regions of space as their territory. We unknowingly entered their claimed space 3 of your Earth weeks ago. They attacked without warning." Major Miller, who had been surveying the room with professional suspicion, joined the conversation. "Their weapons are far beyond ours." "Yes," Tor confirmed. "We barely escaped. Our faster-than-light drive was damaged in the attack. We have been limping through your system, hoping to find a safe place for repairs." Over the next several hours, humans and Valari worked side by side. The human engineers were amazed by the Valari technology, while the aliens seemed equally impressed by the humans' creative approach to problems. Brown and his team focused on the ship's power systems, which were on the verge of complete failure. The Valari used a form of energy generation that humans had only theorized about, harnessing quantum fluctuations in vacuum energy. "It's brilliant," Brown exclaimed, watching Tor manipulate the ship's systems using a 3-dimensional holographic interface. "We've been trying to develop something like this for decades, but could never make it stable." "Shields at maximum," Reed ordered as he rushed back to the horizon. "Weapons systems online, but hold fire unless I give the command." The bridge was a flurry of activity as crew members prepared for the approaching threat. The 3 Drex ships were visible on the main screen now. Sleek, predatory vessels with forward sections that resembled arrowheads. They were arranged in a perfect triangle formation, closing in fast. "They're within communication range," Dr. Moore reported from her station. "They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies." Reed straightened his uniform. "Put them on screen." The image that appeared made several crew members gasp. The Drex were reptilian in appearance, with armored scales covering their bodies and yellow, slit-pupilled eyes. The one in the center, clearly the leader, wore elaborate decorations on its armor. "Unknown vessel," the Drex commander hissed in a surprisingly good translation. "You are harboring fugitives that have violated Drex territory. Disconnect from the Valari ship and withdraw immediately." Reed stepped forward. "I am Captain James Reed of the Earth vessel Horizon. The Valari sent a distress call, and we responded as any civilized species would. They have done nothing wrong." The Drex commander's eyes narrowed. "Earth, we are unfamiliar with your kind. This is not your concern. The Valari trespassed in our space and must face justice. They are explorers who made an honest mistake," Reed countered. "They've been punished enough by the damage to their ship." A low hiss came from the Drex. "You do not understand our ways. The penalty for trespass is destruction. We allowed them to flee only to follow and ensure their end would serve as a warning to others." The commander leaned closer to the screen. "This is your final warning. Withdraw or be destroyed with them." The transmission cut off. Reed turned to find his entire bridge crew staring at him. "They outnumber us 3-1, his tactical officer said quietly, "and their weapons technology appears far superior to ours." Major Miller, who had returned to the horizon with Reed, spoke up. "Captain, with all due respect, we should withdraw. Our mission was to rescue the Valari, not start an interstellar war." Reed walked to the tactical station, studying the sensor readings of the Drex vessels. "What's our tactical assessment?" "Their shields appear similar to the Valari design, but much stronger. Their weapons are energy-based, likely plasma or particle beams. We don't have enough data to know their full capabilities." Thor's voice came through the communication system. "Captain Reed, this is our fight, not yours. You have already done more than we could have hoped. Save your people." Reed closed his eyes for a moment, thinking. When he opened them, His decision was made. Dr. Moore, open a channel to the Valari ship. When she nodded, he continued, Tor, your engine systems are partially repaired. Can you generate a short warp jump? Perhaps one, but we cannot escape them completely, Tor replied. That's not what I'm suggesting, Reed said. Listen carefully. Here's what we're going to do. 10 minutes later, the Drex commander's face appeared on screen again. Your time is up, human. What is your decision? Reed stood tall. We will not abandon those who asked for our help. But before you attack, you should know that humans are not like the other species you've encountered. The Drex commander made a sound that might have been laughter. Your primitive vessel poses no threat to us. Perhaps not, Reed agreed, but we're very good at improvising. He gave a subtle nod to his tactical officer, who pressed a sequence of commands. The Horizon's weapons systems came online, targeting the lead Drex vessel. The Drex commander hissed in what seemed like amusement. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. I know, Reed said calmly. That's why we're not aiming for your ship. The Horizon fired, but not at the Drex vessels. Instead, the shots hit a small asteroid that had been drifting nearby, breaking it into hundreds of fragments that scattered in all directions. The debris wasn't large enough to cause serious damage, but it created a momentary distraction. In that same instant, the Valari ship activated its makeshift warp drive. Instead of fleeing, it made a micro-jump to a position directly behind one of the Drex vessels. Now, Reed commanded. Tor's mandibles spread in what they came to recognize as the Valari equivalent of a smile. Perhaps together we can fix it. Your approach to the power distribution problem was unexpected but effective. As they worked, cultural exchange began naturally. The Valari were curious about Earth and human society, while the humans had endless questions about the Valari and their experiences among the stars. Dr. Moore discovered that the Valari communicated not only through speech, but also through color changes in their skin, subtle shifts that added emotional context to their words. With this knowledge, the translations became more nuanced. Dr. White was fascinated by Valari biology. Their cellular structure is similar to ours in basic organization, but they have triple helix DNA equivalents and a respiratory system that's far more efficient, he reported excitedly to Reed during a brief break. And their medical technology. Captain, they can regrow entire limbs. By the end of the first day, the critical systems on the Lightseeker had been stabilized. The humans had set up temporary living quarters on the alien vessel to allow round-the-clock repair work. Trust was building between the two species, but Reed noticed that Major Miller maintained his caution, keeping his security team on rotating watches. On the second day, Reed found himself working alongside Tor in a damaged section of the engine room. They had been trying to reconnect a crucial power coupling that kept the life support systems running at full capacity. Your species is unusual, Tor commented as they worked. Most spacefaring races we have encountered would not risk themselves to help strangers. Reed paused, considering this. Wouldn't they? It seems like the right thing to do. Right. Tor's skin flickered with blue patterns that the translator interpreted as curiosity. This moral concept is important to humans. To most of us, yes, Reed replied. We believe that helping others when they're in trouble is fundamental, basic. How we treat strangers says a lot about who we are. Tor was silent for a moment, its three eyes blinking in sequence. The Drex believe that the strong should let the weak perish. That is their fundamental belief. A pause. I think I prefer the human way. As they were about to continue working, an alarm sounded throughout both ships. Reed's communicator buzzed urgently. Captain. It was the voice of his first officer on the horizon. We're detecting 3 vessels approaching at high speed. Their configuration matches what we can find in the Valari database about Drex ships. Reed looked at Tor, whose skin had paled to an almost white shade. They found us, Tor said simply. Reed's mind raced. They could disconnect from the Valari ship and flee. The horizon was faster and could likely escape. Or they could stay and face whatever was coming, potentially risking Earth's first contact turning into Earth's first interstellar conflict. He looked at the Valari engineer, who had risked everything to reach out for help, and made his decision. "Tell the crew to battle stations," Reed ordered into his communicator. "We're not abandoning our friends." The Horizon fired again, this time at the Drex ship's engines. Simultaneously, the Valari vessel released an electromagnetic pulse that had been modified according to specifications provided by the human engineers. The pulse temporarily disrupted the Drex ship's shields, allowing the Horizon's weapons to connect. The Drex commander roared in outrage as one of his vessels spun out of formation, its engines damaged. "This is treachery." "This is strategy," Reed corrected. "Something you didn't expect from a primitive species." The two remaining Drex ships turned to attack, their weapons charging. The Horizon shuddered as energy beams struck its shields. "Shields at 60%, the tactical officer reported. "Evasive maneuvers," Reed ordered. "Pattern Delta." The Horizon moved in an unpredictable zigzag pattern that the crew had developed during their journey, based on Earth fighter jet tactics rather than conventional space combat movements. The unusual approach confused the Drex targeting systems, causing several shots to miss completely. Meanwhile, the Valari ship had retreated to a safer distance, but continued to provide support by transmitting shield disruption pulses whenever possible. "Their formations are too rigid," Reed observed as the battle continued. "They expect us to follow conventional space combat protocols." Major Miller, who had taken a tactical station, nodded grimly. "They're not adapting to our movements. They're powerful but inflexible." The Horizon spun and dove, using the asteroid field to their advantage. Human pilots, trained to think creatively and adapt quickly, outmaneuvered the technically superior but tactically rigid Drex ships. "Captain," Dr. Moore called out, "I'm picking up communications between the Drex vessels. They're confused by our tactics. They're calling us unpredictable and chaotic." Reed smiled slightly. "Good. Let's show them just how chaotic we can be." He turned to Chief Engineer Brown. "Remember that power surge issue we had on the way here? Can you create it again, but on purpose, and direct it through our forward shields?" Brown's eyes widened. "You want to create a feedback pulse. It could damage our own systems. Can you do it?" Reed pressed. "Yes, but it's risky as hell," Brown replied. "Do it," Reed ordered. The engineer worked frantically at his station. "Ready on your mark, Captain." Reed waited until the Horizon was positioned between the two operational Drex ships. Now, the Horizon's shields flared brilliantly as they channeled the power surge outward instead of inward. The energy wave rippled through space, temporarily disrupting the sensors and shield harmonics of both Drex vessels. In the crucial seconds that followed, the Horizon and the Valari ship concentrated their fire on the lead Drex vessel's weapon systems. Under the combined assault, the Drex flagship's main weapons array exploded in a shower of sparks and debris. The bridge crew cheered as the Drex formation finally broke. The damaged flagship pulled back, with the third vessel moving to protect it. "They're retreating," someone shouted. Reed held up a hand. "Hold fire. Let them go." On the screen, the Drex commander's face appeared one last time. Its expression was unreadable to human eyes, but its voice carried unmistakable menace. "This is not over, humans. You have made an enemy today that you cannot comprehend. The Drex Imperium does not forget or forgive. We will return." The transmission cut off, and the three Drex ships moved away, accelerating until they disappeared from the Horizon's sensor range. A collective breath was released on the bridge. Reed slumped slightly in his chair, the tension finally catching up to them. "Damage report," he requested. "Shields at 30%. Minor damage to decks 3 and 4. 2 crew members with injuries, but nothing life-threatening," his first officer reported. "And the Valari ship. They sustained additional damage, but their core systems are still functional. Tor is requesting to speak with you." Reed nodded, and Tor's image appeared on screen. The Valari skin was pulsing with colors that the translator interpreted as a mixture of relief, gratitude, and concern. "You fought for us," Tor said simply. "No species has ever done that before." "We couldn't just stand by," Reed replied. "The Drex will return," as they threatened. "They never forgive what they see as a challenge to their superiority." Reed looked around at his tired but proud crew. "Then we better make sure we're ready for them." 3 days after the confrontation with the Drex, the Horizon and the Lightseeker traveled together toward Earth. The Valari ship's faster-than-light drive had been partially repaired, allowing it to limp along at a speed that would get them to Earth in 2 weeks rather than 2 months. Captain Reed had insisted they return together. The Valari needed more extensive repairs than could be completed in space, and Earth's leaders needed to understand the new reality humanity now faced. On the Horizon's observation deck, Reed stood with Tor, both gazing at the distant blue dot that was Earth. "Your home is beautiful, even from here," Tor said, his skin rippling with colors of admiration. "Wait until you see it up close," Reed replied with a smile. "Though I'm not sure how Earth will react to your arrival." Tor's mandibles clicked softly. "Are you concerned your people will fear us?" Reed considered this. "Some will, yes, but most will be curious, excited. We've wondered if we were alone in the universe for as long as we've looked at the stars." "You're far from alone," Tor said, his tone serious. "There are hundreds of spacefaring species in this galaxy alone. Most keep to themselves, some form alliances or trading partnerships, and a few, like the Drex, seek to dominate. How many other species have encountered the Drex?" "Many. Too many." Tor's colors shifted to somber blues and grays. "The Drex Imperium spans 12 star systems directly, with 20 more that pay tribute to avoid destruction. They believe that strength is the only virtue, and that conquering others proves their superiority." Reed frowned. "And no one stands against them." "Some have tried. Individually, they were defeated. No alliance has formed that was strong enough." Tor's 3 eyes fixed on Reed. "Until perhaps now." In the days that followed, humans and Valari continued to work together, repairing both ships and exchanging knowledge. Dr. Moore made remarkable progress with the translation system, while Dr. White and the Valari medical team shared treatments that saved 2 severely injured Valari crew members who might otherwise have died. The Valari, in turn, shared technology that would have taken humans decades or even centuries to develop on their own. They were careful not to overwhelm Earth with advancements it wasn't ready for, but the improved medical techniques, energy efficiency systems, and material sciences they offered would transform human society within a generation. As Earth grew larger in their view screens, Reed called a meeting of senior officers from both ships. "We need to discuss what happens next," he began. "The Drex know about Earth now, and they aren't the type to forgive or forget." Major Miller, who had proven himself during the battle despite his initial caution, spoke up. "Earth's defenses aren't prepared for the kind of weapons the Drex have. Even with the technology the Valari are sharing, it will take time to implement." Tor nodded. "The Drex commander will report to their high command. They will send a larger force next time, not just to destroy us, but to assess whether your planet is worth conquering." "Then we need to be ready," Reed said firmly. "And we need allies." Tor's mandibles spread in what the humans now recognize as a smile. "That is why I've called a meeting of the Galactic Council." The room fell silent. This was the first time any of the humans had heard of such an organization. "The Galactic Council?" Dr. Moore asked. "A loose alliance of 17 spacefaring species," Tor explained. "We share knowledge, resolve disputes, and occasionally provide mutual aid. The Council has avoided direct conflict with the Drex for generations, choosing instead to cede disputed territories rather than fight. But that approach has only emboldened them," Reed guessed. "Yes, the Drex see compromise as weakness. With each territory they claim without resistance, they grow stronger and more ambitious. Tor's colors shifted to bright, determined patterns. But your actions may change that perception. Our actions? Chief Engineer Brown asked. Humans fought when you could have fled. You defended others at risk to yourselves. You used creativity instead of brute force. Tor looked around the room. These are qualities many species in the Council admire but few demonstrate. Your arrival on the galactic stage might be the catalyst needed to finally stand against the Drex. 2 weeks later, the Horizon and the Lightseeker entered Earth orbit. The arrival of an alien ship caused both panic and wonder across the planet. News broadcasts showed crowds gathering in cities worldwide, some in fear, others in celebration. Military forces were placed on high alert, but Reed had been transmitting regular updates during the journey home, and Earth's leaders had chosen diplomacy over hostility. A special landing site had been prepared in a neutral location, a wide plain in Tanzania where a temporary diplomatic compound had been hastily constructed. As both ships descended through the atmosphere, Reed could see thousands of people watching from a safe distance, held back by security forces. When the ships landed and the dust settled, Reed stood at the airlock with Tor and representatives from both crews. Waiting for them on the ground was a delegation of Earth's most prominent leaders, presidents, prime ministers, and diplomats from every major nation. Are you ready? Reed asked Tor. I believe so, the Valari replied, his skin showing nervous patterns. This is a historic moment for both our peoples. The airlock opened and sunlight flooded in. Reed led the way down the ramp, Tor walking beside him. A hush fell over the human delegation as they saw the alien up close for the first time. One woman stepped forward, Jane Cooper from the United Nations Space Council, who had been part of the original meeting when the distress signal was first received. Captain Reed, she said, her voice steady despite the historic significance of the moment. Welcome home, and welcome to our visitors. Tor stepped forward and performed the Valari greeting gesture they had practiced. On behalf of the Valari exploration fleet, I bring greetings to Earth. We come in peace and gratitude. The formalities continued with introductions and brief speeches that were broadcast around the world. When the initial ceremony was complete, the leaders moved into the diplomatic compound for more substantive discussions. Inside a large conference room, Earth's representatives sat across from the Valari, with Reed and his senior officers bridging the two groups. Maps of nearby star systems were displayed on large screens, showing Drex territory in red, Valari space in blue, and Earth, a single vulnerable point of light at the edge of an unexplored region. The Drex will return, Tor explained to the stunned human leaders. Not immediately, but they will come. They now see Earth as both a potential conquest and a challenge to their authority. What options do we have? Asked the Secretary General of the United Nations. Reed looked at Tor, who nodded encouragingly. We propose an alliance, Reed said, not just between humans and Valari, but with other peaceful species through the Galactic Council. He outlined the plan they had developed during the journey home: a mutual defense agreement, technology exchange, and diplomatic relations with the wider galactic community. Earth would gain protection and advancement, while the Council would gain humanity's unique perspective and determination. The Drex believe that might makes right, Reed concluded. They expect others to submit or be destroyed. But together, we can show the galaxy a different path, one where diverse species stand united not through fear, but through choice and shared values. The discussions continued long into the night and for many days afterward. There were concerns, objections, and fierce debates, but eventually, agreement was reached. Earth would join the galactic community, not cowering in fear of the Drex, but standing proudly with new allies. 1 month later, Reed stood on a newly constructed observation platform at the diplomatic compound, watching the stars appear as the sun set. Tor joined him, the Valari skin glowing softly in the twilight. The Council representatives arrive tomorrow, Tor said. 17 species, all curious about the humans who dared to challenge the Drex. Reed smiled. I never imagined that answering a distress call would lead to this. The most important journeys often begin with the simplest choices, Tor replied. Your willingness to help strangers may have changed the course of galactic history. In the distance, they could see the lights of the compound where human scientists and engineers worked alongside Valari teachers, learning and adapting technologies that would help defend Earth. Beyond that, in cities across the planet, people looked up at the stars with new understanding, no longer alone in the vast universe, but part of something greater. Reeve thought about the long road ahead, the challenges of building trust between different species, preparing for the inevitable Drex response, and guiding humanity into a new era. It would not be easy, but as he watched a shooting star streak across the darkening sky, he felt something he hadn't expected: hope. Whatever comes next, he said quietly, we'll face it together. Tor's colors shifted to warm, confident hues as they stood side by side, a human and a Valari, looking up at the stars that no longer seemed quite so distant or cold. Together, Tor agreed. That is how the stars themselves will change.